The boy is back, the prodigy, the man that we've been all waiting for in terms of who hasn't made their big return to entrance yet. Yuta Okosu is back in the story of JJK. I don't know why we are acting like he's been gone for years. I mean, he's only been gone for like a couple months technically. I mean, actually a couple weeks in terms of seeing him on panel. But in battle, Yuta is finally back. But before we get into the whole chapter and what I think is going to happen in the next, because I think next chapter is going to be pretty interesting, especially how we left off. Go ahead, you already know the drill. Subscribe, like for more content, as well as check out the second channel. I might do some game stuff on there, so go ahead and just check all that out. But let's get into the chapter. Now, Takaba and Kenjaku's comedian duo skit or stage, whatever this was, for the C1 comedy tournament that they talked about in prior chapters. I actually kind of enjoyed it, to be honest with you. In terms of the comedy aspect and how Takaba's character through comedy was portrayed, I enjoyed it more so last week than this one. But in terms of Kenjaku's like actual realistic goal of comedy, I did enjoy the fact that he got to be able to do this and succeed. And it's kind of cool seeing that even though he doesn't know his technique is the whole reason he's even gotten here or this far in general. And I think the whole stage play was kind of interesting. It was way different considering this is technically a battle, a fight, and they're working together to do this whole comedy thing, because at the end of the day, Kenjaku realized the last chapter that he has to satisfy Takaba's comedy needs in order to even progress in finishing them off. And even though this little skit thing took up a lot of the chapter and it was mainly revolved around comedy that I guess, you know, since we're from, well, at least I'm from America, and most of the people that's probably reading this was from the West, you know, it's kind of hard for us to really correlate and kind of recognize some of the comedy, especially with some of the other things that we don't know yet. And like basically the format of how it went, it kind of was like offbeat comedy, but I did check it a little bit here and there. So I'm pretty sure the people over in Japan, they probably love some of the stuff and the references for them. But now the Momotaro thing, I felt that obviously a lot of people would know of, especially if you read One Piece, which I was a little back and forth because I wasn't sure if the Momotaro story is supposed to be like a reference to Kenjaku or, you know, JJK, because he did say that he had a single mother. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a joke. I'm just assuming that it probably is, because this whole thing is supposed to be like a made up comedy skit. But regardless, I thought it was pretty well executed in terms of what this did for Takaba's character, and even how Kenjaku encountered a technique he's never really seen before. And I'm kind of leaning more so towards we're not getting the whole Momotaro story or correlation, because I'm gonna be honest with you, if you read One Piece, I've had enough of anything regarding Momotaro or anything revolving that story. Now, I did enjoy the moment of Takaba being finally satisfied with achieving a comedy goal. He was able to rock the crowd. Everybody was laughing, and he did that with Kenjaku. And actually gave Kenjaku some thanks. He thanked them for helping him do that, which was such a different thing in JJK. You rarely ever see any good guy, will say, give thanks or props to a main antagonist like that, and it's not really revolving around power, but more so them as a person helping them out. So that was really different. And then it doesn't help the fact that Kenjaku actually says that Takaba's hilarious, and the way the panel is structured, it looks exactly like when Sukuna said, "You're magnificent, Gojo, I'll never forget you." I'm like, there's no way that Gege just did that. A lot of people have been memeing that panel, especially for this fight. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure he probably did that on purpose. And I like that that's all folks part at the end when they officially ends, because of clearly the reference to the color page of Gojo and Geto. And to me, this feels like the end of Takaba's character arc, and that feels like the perfect way for it to end. He achieved his comedy goals, his dreams, and that's all. He's probably the most wholesome and just completely good character we have left that isn't Yuji or Yuta. So I think it's a pretty fitting end for him. I don't think he really needs to do anymore else. If he does add any more, let's just add more to his style. But man, oh man, when I tell you, when I turn that page and I see Yuta closing in on Kenjaku, because he had to sneak him. Because look, Kenjaku knew that Yuta has the most curse energy, especially out of the current people that isn't Sukuna. So he would have noticed them a long time ago. Little did we know that Takaba's comedian technique, we know that it kind of bends reality and turns the imagination between you and the opponent into reality. Little did we know that it actually cuts off cursed energy that's sensed from other people. So in this whole little thing with Takaba, Kenjaku was not able to sense any other cursed energy, which explains why Yuta was able to speed blitz him for the most part and get so close to Kenjaku. And Yuta goes in for the swing of his sword. He's going to cut his head off. Now, there were a couple translation errors in this chapter, and I can kind of tell from the way some of the dialogue was portrayed, especially when it says curse technique reversal anti-gravity. It's actually the other way around. Anti-gravity is Kaori Yuji's mother's actual regular curse technique. That's the base. The reversal is gravity. I'm pretty sure TCB probably, messed up a little bit because they said it was a struggle translating it, but we all know what the technique is. So 9 times out of 10, Kenjaku was actually trying to use the gravity part of the anti-gravity technique. It says slice, so either Yuta was able to just deflect it, or he was able to just speed past Kenjaku fast enough to where he was able to cut his head off. And I believe it was a similar moment in Volume 0, especially in the movie, where he tried to cut off Geto's head, but he failed. But in this one, it actually succeeded this time, so that was pretty dope. And this whole thing was the plan from the very start, from Takaba to Yuta to cutting off Kenjaku's head. They knew Takaba couldn't kill people, so they sent in Yuta to be able to, at least from their standpoint, finish off Kenjaku. But even I think Yuta knows that Kenjaku would not be dead by this. And Kenjaku says, "It's a shame to bow before I finish, but my will be passed on." Now, my predictions for next chapter, I do think Kenjaku might switch bodies. It looks like he activated his body swapping technique at the very end. I mean, you see the veins coming out of his head. I highly doubt this is a healing technique, because there's no way that he's gonna have to regrow his entire body or somehow stitch it back, which even then, why would Yuta stand there and let that happen? When he says my will is gonna be passed on, it's only one other body around him, and that's Takaba, because he damn sure isn't picking Hatanoki. So if he does attach his body to Takaba, that is freaking dangerous, because then you get the comedy aspect technique, but at the same time, I don't know if it's going to be that effective in a dangerous sense. It could be, it could be, especially coming from Kenjaku, but I feel like he would mainly prioritize his curse spirit manipulation rather than trying to get something like the comedian. I could be wrong. Maybe he enjoyed that technique so much he actually would want to put it to use for his own good, but we won't know until this chapter. The other thing is, maybe he has like a clone of himself hidden somewhere, or maybe he has a backup plan just in case someone tries to cut his head off, because for anybody else cutting your head off, I mean, you're done. Even, or if you cut off pretty much like the midsection, what happened to Gojo? Because that's where the curse energy relies, especially for Kenjaku, considering his curse technique it's the freaking brain. So I just don't know. I really don't know. My other idea was maybe he puts himself into Kawa's body just so he can like pretty much deal with Yuta first, then heal his Geto's body, and then he'll jump back in. I just don't know. I mean, the man's head's cut off, so what can he do at this point? Whatever he does after this is gonna be a feat. But we're gonna have Yuta versus Kenjaku. Maybe Maki comes in. We've all been kind of expecting Maki and Yuta to take him on, but right now it's gonna be Yuta versus Kenjaku, the fight that we've been pretty much expected to see ever since Yuta's return. I can't freaking wait. Next chapter is going to be insane. All the final battles are now being set up, and now that we have our good laughs out of the way, we're back to just chaos and madness, and I'm thoroughly gonna enjoy it. By the way, I didn't slip and miss this. Y'all notice how he had Mimiko and Naniko like clones cheering for Kenjaku, calling him Ken-kun, and remove the stitches? Yeah, he is a sick man.